Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to Estuate's webinar titled Migration of Oracle E-Business Suite from Solaris to Linux, Best Practices. Today's presenters are Shiladitya Das, Delivery Manager at Estuate, and Vasudeva Shinoy, Estuate's E-Business Implementation Lead. Das is the Delivery Manager at Estuate and has over 15 years of industry experience. He has managed some of the most complex implementations in various industries. Boss is the Estuate e-business implementation lead. He has been involved in various Oracle EBS projects for 10 years. Boss is hands-on and was involved in numerous successful implementations for some leading companies. We will be emailing a link to the recorded webinar to all that registered. Thank you, Das and Vasu, for presenting, and I'll turn the webinar over to you now.
Thank you very much, Mike, and good morning, everybody, and good afternoon to all. My name is Das. I am the Delivery Manager at Estuate, and we appreciate all your participation in this webinar session. We are very excited to talk to you today regarding the migration of Oracle Business Suite. We'll slide with this agenda where we will give you the overview of Estuate and the migration methodology we follow. We will also talk about detailed phases of migration that we followed in a couple of our case studies, our challenges we faced during migration, and the best practices to overcome those, and also the benefits of migration. At the end, there will be the opportunity for everyone participating in today's webinar to ask their questions. So regarding the Estuate, Estuate is a global information technology services company located in USA, Canada, UK, and Asia Pacific region. Estuate's headquarters is in Silicon Valley, California, and we have offshore development centers in Bangalore and Mangalore in India. In 2005, Estuate has consistent 8 years growth, and we are currently 300 plus employees in our company. Currently, we are focusing in 4 areas. One of them is implementation of Oracle technology and application family. As part of that, we do end-to-end analysis, design, development, support, implementation, web service implementation, data migration, and upgrade of Oracle technology and application family, which includes PeopleSoft, Jerry, Siebel, etc. Our people have decades of experience in Oracle-based application development and modernization. The implementation of IBM Optim Enterprise Data Management Solution. Our IBM's go-to partner for providing the Optim consulting services worldwide. And as part of the data management solution, we do archiving and retirement of production application, as well as we do subsetting and masking of non-production application. Be done on any kind of database and any kind of operating system. Third one where we are specialized, that is the product engineering. So as part of the product engineering, we do architecture design, development of new solutions, integrating, leveraging leading technology platforms like Microsoft .NET or Java or any other technologies, data migration, data quality management, and mobile application also that recently we have started. And the re-architecture of application to cloud environment, taking advantage of multi-tenant model. Fourth one is the business intelligence. That particular area we are doing since our start, but very recently this year we have started our initiative in big data side. The major Estuate business intelligence and big data implementation service, which covers various aspects of BI and data analytic tools. So with the strong customer base and our experience and highly satisfied with the referenceable customers, Estuate is growing with a high pace. And all our differentiation between other IT services company and Estuate is that all our customers are repeat and referenceable. We are highly experienced. We have the highly experienced delivery team, and as well as our delivery model is proven and tested. So if you have any other requirement of the project related to the Oracle technology or application family, or any other services what I mentioned before, you can feel free to reach me or Vasu or Estuate. Our email and the phone number will be shared at the end of this presentation. Now I will hand it over to Vasu, who will explain the migration methodology and the case study where we to Linux.
Thank you, Das, for introduction about Estuate and giving a summary of the agenda of today's webinar. Before I talk about the migration methodology and the best practices around it, brief you all about what is this migration. So let me give an example start with. There are many customers who we work with. So they have a perception of migration is something which is like you unmount a storage point from a server X, Y, and mount it to server Y. So which will have the application and database in it. But in real, it is not true. All the application, when I talk about the platform migration, all the application or database, they come with different set of binaries and executables which are dependent on different platforms. When I say different platforms, say for example, the installer which works on Windows platform may not work in Linux, or in the same way, even the Linux and Solaris in our presentation when we are considering, even though these both operating systems are different operating systems. When the underlying layer changes, obviously all the process related to that will change. And also when the process and the underlying layer changes, obviously, and then we need to have more testing and more to be taken care. So for that, so we need to have a strong methodology or process in place. For that, Estuate has its own methodology which is divided into 3 different phases, and it is nothing the planning. When I talk about the planning, so more of like, again, these phases are again subcategorized into different processes. And each process is again associated with the different tasks, and each of the tasks are associated with different resources. So when I talk about planning, it's more on assessment of your existing system and to understand more about source and where we are today and where we want to go. And also planning involves a lot of pre-migration preparatory work about the hardware configuration you want to use. Business. Also, what are the different types of benefits they are looking for from this project. And it is very important to have a test plans also to be considered in the planning stage across different areas of IT, whether it could be a DBA or it could be functional or technical. Because the only way to make sure, even though it's a platform migration from the end user's perspective, there won't be any change from application to application when we migrate. But having said that, since the platforms are changing, work the way how it was working in source. So it is very important to have the test plans also as part of planning. Any other projects or implementation, so that requires multiple iterations to go through in the non-production environment before we go live. So typically, minimum iterations are 3. We call it as iterations, or sometimes we call it as CRP, that's confidence from pilot. So sometimes, depending on the companies and the complexity level of the project, these iterations can go more than three times. Or sometimes, even we have seen like within the iterations, we run same process multiple times to make sure the things work as like how it is supposed to be. So is about the production cutover. So it has like two sub-processes. One is training and handover, and the actual production go live. That requires a different planning, but having said that, you may think about why do we need a training in terms of production cutover, though we are just changing the platform here. So just to give an example, say for example, sometimes some clients want to do migration as well as upgrade together. In that situation, the training will be more elaborate because it requires the upgrade part also. And sometimes since the platforms are changed regarding the DBAs or the IT infrastructure wise, break. And that requires a lot of training from the to give about to make the scripts work, and then the similar process what you have in the source, how to make it work in target. So if it is just a platform migration, just requires some minimal training. So if you have something else merged with the migration like upgrade or anything to do with the character set changes or any drastic change in the network or drastic change in the hardware or anything like that, then it may. So this process, again, as I said, it requires a different set of resources. When I say resources, it's manpower or the team size across different divisions. It could be on the IT side, which is DBAs, system admin, network admin, information security, from the development perspective, from development, QA, any functional, technical, and obviously the end users who is going to test the application after the migration. So just to be on same page with you all, in future I'm going to use the words source and target repeatedly. So when I say source, I'm talking about the server from where we are going to migrate it from. And when I talk about target, let's talk about now more on the planning phase. Earlier we discussed about, in earlier slide we discussed about just a guideline about the whole migration methodology. Now we will go into the deep of each phase as we talked about. So first thing is planning. Whenever we say planning, the first thing comes to mind is assessment. It is very important to assess the existing environment to make sure we understand the workload and also the current environment, how it is set up. The first thing comes to mind is environment, like what applications you have. So you have one server and after the migration you want to decommission. Say that you have only Oracle application, the Oracle application or any other applications which are tied up to the Oracle application. It could be custom ones or it could be Oracle technology applications. So first thing we have to make sure is what applications we have on the server, whether it's in the financial domain or the HR domain or like that. Also, it is important to know what is the size of the application and database and what are the different applications and what are the different versions of the applications you have on the database. Once all of things are done, it is very important to look at the product licensing and support information on the source as well as target. So sometimes what happens, this makes a decision, okay, we want to go platform server X, but the support may not be even there for like next 2 years or 3 years. So we have to take those into consideration when we do assess the. Next thing is about kind of laying down the approach of a migration. To talk about like how we want to step by step. This perspective, it is very important to know the business requirement here. So sometimes business wants to upgrade the system to a next version, and also sometimes they want to implement new applications, or sometimes what are the applications we have currently, so that may not even work in the target system. So that also requires a different set of upgrade or even the different types of porting. Sometimes even we have to bring in new additional servers to port those integrated applications. So it is very important to lay down what are the customizations you have currently in terms of when I speak about the Oracle applications, or if there is a custom application, it's a different types of approach. Anything is related to the operating system level. Say, for example, there are sometimes there will be a lot of automation scripts and job scripts which runs and which are specific to platform. And when we change the platform as part of this application migration, so those scripts may not work in the target environment. So that also needs to be assessed before we start on the project. So next key thing is about the business requirement. So we really need to do an assessment on what business needs. So most of the times we have seen like most of the people who goes to application migration because of the cost perspective or the performance perspective, etc. things. Important thing is like what business thinks is like, what if I do a migration today, whether my performance is going to be much more slower than the current system or it's going to be higher. Obviously, they expect it should be improved version of the performance than the degrade. So we would definitely need to kind of know requirement and what is their expectation from the performance and what kind of related things are required for those performance or to kind of expectation to be met. Another important thing is like they always think about how much is the production downtime. So nobody in reality nobody wants to have a less downtime in when we go for a production. Everybody wants to have a less downtime in a production go live. The thing is acceptance criteria, because at the end of the day, the project or the migration would be signed off depending on the set of acceptance criteria, whether it's on the performance or the downtime or the functional or technical side of it. So that also is required, very important to have assessed before the project kickstart. So fourth one is resources. When I talk about resources, there are two perspectives. One is from the manpower or the team size, and the second one is from the infrastructure side. So when I talk about the team size, it is very important to have a right number of resources with the right skill set across different areas, whether it is TBS primarily and the system and network admins and the information security group or the network group or the end users, the business key stakeholders, and all the development and QA resources. When I talk about the infrastructure side, it is very important to lay down what will be my hardware architecture looks like or hardware configuration looks like in the target. So it is very important, as I said, it's depending on the business requirement of the performance or downtime or things like that, the hardware infrastructure will also change. So that is also very important to kind of note down. So let me give an example here why I'm emphasizing these pointers. One of the projects recently we did in one of our client place. So what they were thinking before we kind of involved into the project was like example of like they want to upgrade their system of Oracle applications from 11A to release 12. And they also wanted to do a platform migration to bring down their cost of the maintenance. They wanted to kind of migrate it from Solaris to Red Hat Linux. So they were kind of planning to have like first you migrate the application to target, because they were thinking that they were hardware to do the upgrade in the source environment itself. So that's why they were thinking that they will procure a very good hardware at the target and let's do the migration and then do the upgrade. But eventually what happened when we involved in the project and when we did the assessment, we found out that the current application version, what they have, the 11i with a 64-bit, which is not portable in Red Hat Enterprise Linux 64-bit. So that exactly what it says is that to understand the environment. If this something doesn't go through, then we definitely have to change the approach. So because of that, what we had to eventually do is we had to first upgrade in place and then migrate. So that's why I'm emphasizing more why we need to do the assessment. Always recommended that you follow the best practices and recommendations from Oracle, especially when it comes of the product licensing or support or certification metrics when we consider migration or upgrade, because a lot of things are dependent on this, and this can change drastically with the approach or the migration steps or the sequence you follow. Once the assessment is complete, it is very important to kind of lay down the architecture. So as you see here, it is again one of the projects which we worked on, wherein our client wanted to migrate their Oracle application release 12 from Solaris 10 to Red Hat Enterprise Linux 5.6. They were having other things also in the same server like Discoverer and other kind of customization. We had to move that as well from one platform to another platform. You may also see some difference in the version of Oracle application version. Here on the source, you may see the 12.1, and in target, you may see it's 12.13. Yes. So this project was more of migration as well as upgrade. So once we migrated, we also upgraded the Oracle application version from release 12.1 to 12.13, as well as, I think you may notice a small change in the database size, and you may wonder why. So I will talk about this more when I talk about on the last segment of my presentation, that is the benefits of migration. So why there is a change in the database, the migration and upgrade. So here more emphasizing about the architecture to kind of know where we are today and how we are going to look once the migration is complete. Once this is to kind of go through the migration execution. For migration execution, we need to have a very strong detail done at the task level. So for that to be executed, we need to have a project plan which will lay out list and the phases, resources involved in it, what is going to be. And also it is very important to identify the key stakeholders, roles and responsibilities in this different areas. Next thing is make sure you have the sign-off and acceptance criteria from different teams, including the IT, business, and the functional, and the end users. And very important to have a communication plan. So these kind of projects implementation where you have to communicate with different national divisions. So it is very important to have a communication plan in place, whether it's going to be a status meetings or status reports or like any escalation procedures. So next thing, very important, system readiness checklist. So it is very important to have, like, before you start a migration, so one should know what we are doing and then how to make sure things are in place before we start anything so that we don't miss out anything during the execution. For executions are laid down in the checklist, and we review them over the period of time, every iteration, and we kind of make sure to update them over the period, like based on the lesson learned on each iteration. Next thing is hardware and storage. It is obvious that we need to have a good, robust hardware when we going for migration, obviously expecting more performance than in the source. Important thing is network and information security requirements. Sometimes in these areas, things may change depending on the company policies and things like that. That also needs to be planned well. And then what are the impacts going to be on the application once after these changes. So another very important thing I would like to highlight is rollback plan. So any project for that matter, so things may go wrong. Either it could be a human error or it could be different reasons the failure can occur. The application iterations, when we are doing multiple iterations, things may go wrong because we are doing a lot of trial and errors to make things work. Or the second thing is like when we are doing the real production rollout. So we need to have a rollback strategy for that. How are we going to save the work, or what if things go wrong in the production? What is our rollback strategy is going to be? So that is something will come from the business end. Okay, next, let me talk about more on the migration steps or the iteration, or what exactly the task which goes through in the migration in the each iteration. So primarily, there are a couple of tasks. First thing to start with the prepare target server or target system. So when I say target, it's the server where it's going to be our end state machine is. So definitely the first step we would do is like procure the right hardware and the software, and install the operating system of the end state version, and also all the OS level patches and required for the databases to run and the application to run. So once these recommended patch sets are applied, we also need to tweak some of the OS level parameters depending on the hardware configuration we have on the target. So next thing is, once this is done, it's the installation part. So we would be using the platform-specific binaries or the installers, and we install the Oracle application and application technology stack. And also, we make sure we configure the application, we make sure to configure database structure as similar to what we have in source. It is very important that the storage mount points or even the database structure, whether it's going to be on at the database table space level or the parameters level, things like that. So that should be exactly similar as like what you have in source before we do the migration. So once all is done, so as a rollback strategy, we always recommend to take a backup, because this constitutes almost 2 to 3 days of work when we go actually for the production rollout. Even though these tasks can be separated as a pre-migration task before the downtime, but having saved is really important to kind of as a rollback strategy. Next, similar way we need to do the preparation for target system 2. So that is kind of like, first thing we make sure is take a backup with the current state, whatever we have, and also once the backup is taken, then bring down the services and make sure the users are locked out so that the downtime is really big enough. And next is like install and configure the recommended patches on the source side before we do any kind of migration steps, because we are actually exporting whatever contents from the source we required and then importing it to the target, whether it's on database or application. And also back up all the application level independent, platform independent files. There are certain files which are independent, like in terms of e-business we'd consider. So we have a lot of code files which are platform independent. So that or either including the customization, we need to back up first in the source system as part of preparatory of server. So once the preparation is done, the next thing is to make sure things are in place by verifying the checklist and the sanity check before we actually start the migration. So again, make sure all the OS level patching, the system backups, or the access privileges, what is required for the execution. So next comes the actual part of the migration, where first thing is to make the database platform migration. So as Oracle goes, there are different ways to migrate the database. The traditional way is export import, it's called data form, or other options, recent options, transportable databases and transportable table spaces, utilities. Again, it differs from environment to environment and different aspects of database. Supposed to go here. So next thing is once the database, any process we do in each iteration, we document and list the issue so that this can be utilized in the next successive iterations, whether it's an issue or it's anything to do with the process or screenshots and things like that. So once the database is migrated using any of these utilities, so next comes to the platform. So here So whatever backup we took from the application independent file system, application platform independent code files, we are going to migrate it to target. So you configure which you installed in the target system to connect with the target database. As I mentioned, the integrations, whether it could be different reporting tools or any other to do with the file transfers or file check-in or anything to do with the customization or any other applications like Discoverer or Business Intelligence, which are kind of part of your source system, that also need to be ported on the target system database and application. So this is more on the application side migration, and once the migration of application is complete, then comes the post-migration task. So again, post-migration task, again, if you are merging migration along with the upgrade, upgrade, then you would be doing the upgrade task, and also if there is anything to do with the retrofit customization, if there is anything missing in the customization which did not come through as part of the standard migration, so which is obvious, and that needs to be kind of set up in the target system. So next is the challenges faced. Here, to kind of simplify more into different areas, we talk about the resources. So again, resources again in two perspectives: team, project team, and the human resources. And second thing is the infrastructure side. So many a times when we went to client place for execution of the project, so they think migration is a very simple project, and they would need, because it's just a platform change for them. But what they do is like they allocate the shared resources, like either it could be a shared servers for all the non-production environment, or like a shared resources again from their side on the client, IT or business or things like that. So it is very kind of challenging to have shared resources working on the project, because as in when we need, we won't be able to get the help, right help from them. But certainly that is a kind of challenge, and then we always encounter this, and then we make sure that we have our offshore team helping us so that it goes like 24/7 in these areas, like wherever we need, we just keep the process going all the time so that it won't kind of stop at one point of time. So next thing is about the integrations. So there are a lot of custom applications we come across, and then sometimes which are kind of integrated, and sometimes what happens is like the resources who worked at earlier won't be there in the project, or they would be left off the company. So we have to really understand how the integrations were made and how we can port that into the target system. So another integration type is like upgrade and characteristic changes. Always we have seen many clients who do the migration along with the upgrade characteristic conversion because of so that is also kind of challenging to kind of note down to underline with the business requirements in terms of performance, in terms of downtime. So these are the major challenges we face. So another thing is the performance. Again, the performance has two different perspectives. One is like how to reduce the performance, how to improve the performance when we do the production go live or downtime, how to reduce the downtime. And second thing is like what is the performance after the migration is complete, how the performance of end state looks like. So this can be done in several ways, we make sure that what the task can be done in parallel, so that it involve parallelism can be like improve the significant amount of time in the downtime. And also setting up the different parameters at the OS and database level also will help performance of the migration process or even the use. So next thing is development in QA. It is very important to have time allocated for testing phase in each iterations of CRP, and involve the right resources, whether it could be on the QA side or development side or end user side, to make sure in each iteration and get a sign off. So that is another challenge, to have right resources in place at the same time of the sign off or anything like that. And also various different teams across and different time zones, and so again, as I said, that for this also we kind of use our offshore team, kind of like make sure that they coordinate with different people at all the time. So another important thing I want to stress here is the storage space. Is always what people assess is like what we have currently in the source system. They would go with that much of storage, but in real, so we need to have more than like minimum 3x times of storage what is required for that. It could be temporary because there are various factors involved. One is like when we do the export of the data, where do we keep the data that exported down? So that is a kind of temporary storage area we would need. And also when we are taking periodic checkpoints or backups, that also requires a lot more storage than what is anticipated. And this is again temporary. Once the project is done, it can be reclaimed. And also in order with number of servers, we need to have a good amount of servers allocated for the server, so that a project is, so that it goes in parallel many tasks. Okay, so these are the different challenges we faced. It's a kind of summary, and let's talk about the actual best practices we have come across after learning from many projects we did so far. So again, I have kind of differentiated in different areas of these best practices. So let's talk about first is hardware and software. So always we recommend to have like consider newer version of operating system or the application and our database in place, because it makes the life easier a lot more. So when we are kind of interacting with the Oracle support or any other product technical support. So this helps us to kind of get a recent patches and things like that very easy than if you are going with an older version. And also sometimes the older versions. So next, again, amount of storage or the hardware when you are procuring, make sure you consider the current rate of increase, also all your future needs, how it's going to be. Always have a hardware resources which are scalable for future needs. So next is like also make sure the Oracle support certification matrix version of the operating system or the database or the application which you're going to be migrating from and migrating to. The next thing is very important, have dedicated servers for all the non-production environment and for production rollout, and do not have shared resource, shared servers, multiple iterations. It's going to rule out project, and it will delay the whole process. So next thing comes about the performance. We generally recommend do not merge the upgrade or any other projects, because it will increase the complexity of the project. And second thing is like any such kind of drastic changes you make in the application or database, it requires some stabilization period. So when we do migration, database upgrade or application upgrade, everything together, so it is very difficult to nail down the issues up between two different changes. Please have one at a time done so that the performance will drastically have, you can note down, and also you can also reduce the downtime and things like that, and the number of issues which you crop up during the project cycle will also drastically come down, and you get a good amount of time for stabilization of the application. And next thing is very important, like you identify the OS and database level parameters which are directly impact on advanced or after the application migration is done so that you get a better performance during the actual migration or after the production rollout. For the downtime, so again, I'm stressing again, have a scalable and robust hardware to handle the current and future business needs. Minimum that you knock out all the issues, whatever you come across in the environment, list out them, document them, and then carry over the lesson learned to the next. So next thing is about the verification. So more is like the test cases and the customization and sign-off criteria, so that you do the same type of testing in each iteration and make sure things are working fine. Next is like very important to collect all the metrics, logs, and configuration files in each iteration so that you have a comparison report from iteration to iteration whether you are going right or wrong to kind of evaluate the whole process. So another thing is allocate very good amount of time of UAT for UAT or the user acceptance testing, because most of the time what happens is like when we do multiple iterations because of various other issues, the UAT time will shorten, and then the users won't get actual time for testing, and we encounter a lot of issues after the go live. So you make sure that we have enough good amount of time allocated for UAT. Rollback. Again, one of the thing is like, it's kind of like what if things goes wrong at one point of time during the actual migration or production go live. So one very best practice we would recommend is like always UAT iteration or one of the iteration, you mock it up as like how you do the production rollout. Exactly use the same production hardware for one of the non-production environments so that you can knock out all the issues there. Also have a rollback plan in case of things go wrong in the production rollout. What if you need to roll back to the source system itself? So what is the business strategy and how much is the lead time you have and things like that. Okay, so let's talk about the segment that is the benefits of migration. So people have done migration, several clients have done migration, and we see the summary of the benefits are these, like this improvement in the performance. We have seen like 30 to 40% anywhere between the improvement in the performance from compared to source and target. And also we have seen like 30% of the maintenance cost have reduced when we have the cross-platform migration because of the hardware or OS or support or licensing cost and things like that. Drastic change in the storage space also. Even the storage is very nominal nowadays, but we have seen the storage reduction also has happened after the migration because the fragmentation will go away when we do the export and import or any kind of like data transport between two environments. Just a migration, as I said, it requires very minimal training or no training just for the administrative staff, whether it's going to be DBAs or technical people, system admin or things like that, to make sure their day-to-day process goes fine, whether it's the cloning, patching, or also latest version of operating system to have will help dealing with the Oracle or to get or even the operating system people to get the right patches on time because it's a newer version. Okay, that ends the last segment of my presentation, and I think, Mike, we can pick it up to the question.
Okay, great. Thank you for presenting. We'll open it up to questions now. Feel free to ask your questions in either the Q&A part of GoToWebinar, or we can also do it in a chat box if that's easier. Here's our first question. Why do customers want to migrate from Solaris 10 to Red Hat Enterprise Linux?
So basically, as I mentioned, like the first factor they consider is the cost of the licensing which they have to shell out, and also the maintenance cost, including for the, so that's something we have come across so far.
the whole package, like what Vasu mentioned, the operating system maintenance, the storage location, the number of servers, the maintenance support, where you will see there will be a less cost move from Solaris to Linux.
Yeah. Next question.
Okay, great. Can you explain what type of rollback strategies you followed in your previous projects?
Sure. Yeah, so one of the rollback strategies was on the file system. We take a checkpoint backup, we call the, it's always available, like whatever changes we do over the period of time, it kind of gets recorded. And as in when we kind of go to a particular milestone, say for example, once we prepare the target system, so a lot of things will be get installed and a lot of things will change in the file system level. And we take a checkpoint that says, we call it a file system checkpoint. And that is one way. And the second thing is on the database side, we can always take a backup, that RNAM backup and then point-in-time backup or things like that. And always we can restore it back as and when we need. So those are the, or if suppose, say for example, if you're working on a VMware or something, we can always go for a snapshot backup. So these are the different rollback strategies we follow. I mean, in terms of the, within the and processes or iterations.
Okay, great. Thank you. Next question. Did you consider Oracle's OVM and Unbreakable Linux combination? Hello, Vasu? Can you hear me?
And Mike?
Hi, Ganga.
Mike, can you hear me?
Yeah, I think we're experiencing a little bit of audio problems here. Did you hear my question? Were you able to get that? I can reread it.
Yeah, please.
Did you consider Oracle's OVM and Unbreakable Linux combination?
Used,
Hi, Vasu? Oh, go ahead. I
No,
think your audio is breaking up here.
So we haven't used that methodology so far.
Okay. Next question. Why do you think upgrade and migration cannot be merged into a single project?
Yeah, it is because of the complexity involved in two different projects. So we consider the upgrade, or Oracle also recommends not to merge both of these together. So one reason is it always increases the complexity of the project, and second thing is, like as I mentioned, so any change you do in the application or database, so once the migration is done, get the system stabilized and go for upgrade, or do the upgrade first, get it stabilized and go for a migration. So that's the reason we kind of.
Okay, great. Thank you, Vasu. Looks like we have no more questions, so I wanted to thank Vasu and Das for presenting today, and thank you to all the attendees for attending today's webinar. We've recorded it, and we'll be putting it up on Estuate's website probably in the next couple of days. So, and we'll also be emailing it out to all that registered. So feel free to rewatch it, send it to your colleagues and friends, and should you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. There's contact information right there on the screen. And thank you to the attendees, and thanks again, Vasu and Das, for presenting. Have a great day.
Thank you.